Cheryl Todd here from Gun Freedom Radio. We are at the 2019 SHOT Show in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, and I am so excited to have an opportunity to catch up with an amazing woman who I had previously only met in the interwebs, right? On our Instagram pages and that sort of thing. And it got to a point where we felt like, hey, we're already friends, and now we had a chance.
It was cookies.
Yes, it was. You had me at cookies. And we have a chance to meet in person. This is Kerry Slone. Kerry is the founder of We the Female, a nonprofit organization created to both empower and provide education about rights and responsibility. Kerry is a wife, a mother, and a successful entrepreneur with a diverse background in multiple business ventures, as well as being an accomplished public speaker. Thank you so much
My pleasure. Thank you.
Finding time. SHOT Show is like craziness. It's like everybody's on ADD.
Yeah, this is a pretty crazy event. I've been to some pretty big conventions, but this is wild.
And this is your first year.
This is my first year,
And things had just gotten to a boiling point for you with the whole gun control versus gun rights, especially in your home state.
Correct.
Washington State.
Yep.
And you kind of came to this place where you're like, that's it. I have to really start speaking out. Did I paraphrase that well?
Yeah, you did. I mean, and it actually started as just me almost, in retrospect, maybe almost pitifully explaining to people who voted for our most recent gun law, which is, if those of you that don't know, was 1639. And it was a 30-page debacle of poorly written crap, for lack of a better word. But it was, and
we
it was
are a PG-13 PG show, so no, crap's fine.
It was actually pulled by a federal judge initially because it was fraudulently on the ballot, but that's not relevant. It ended up back on the ballot, and it got it was voted in by a landslide, and I was super frustrated because one of the biggest things in it is essentially, to shorten it, is it's a violation of HIPAA rights. So when you apply for a semi-automatic rifle, that application is now an automatic waiver of your medical privacy rights. And as a domestic violence survivor myself, I know what can be in a domestic violence survivor's medical record that could potentially inhibit them from being able to purchase a firearm to protect themselves in a system, particularly in that state, that consistently fails victims. So I was really, really frustrated, and I just put my heart into that, and I said, for those of you that don't know what you just did, you just marginalized and re-victimized a lot of women. And I had people coming forward, and I didn't understand. I said, that's because you didn't read it, and they don't want you to read it. I mean, that's right. part of what that is. Well, I put it on my Facebook, and a little while later I put it on my Instagram, and someone tagged Poland Noir, and it ended up on his page. He shared it, and 3 hours later, my Instagram was going nuts, and I went, what the hell happened? I didn't even make the connection as to what it was, but that's what had happened. And so I had 30 emails within 3 hours asking, what can we do to help? And so We the Female, my organization, was already in the process of being developed. I had started that after Parkland. But I realized it was time to expedite that. And so I got on that and got that active. But I became as I was telling you, the accidental activist, because now I'm also championing to help change the paradigm of what gun control laws are really doing, for domestic violence, women in general, domestic violence victims.
Well, education is really such the core of everything.
Yeah.
Because, when we go into the voting booth,
right,
if we have not done our research, then we are going to be tricked every single time.
Absolutely.
And, even like these red flag laws that are coming up all over the place, or in Arizona, Governor Ducey wants to have a stop law, it's called. And there is definitely a well-meaning angle to it.
Right.
I mean, some people are just going after it because they know that they can trample our rights, but other people that are in that middle space, they feel like, oh, that is common sense, and that is well-meaning. But then when you stop and you really look at it, and you realize that with very, very little evidentiary information, your personal property and your personal rights and your Second Amendment rights are gone.
Yeah, and that's a kind of a conversation I'd had with a few people, and one of them, in fact, a good friend of mine who she voted for it. And And I said, let me tell you what you just did. And she looked at me and she says, I feel really bad. And I said, I'm not mad at you. I said, you watched King 5 when they highlighted this or read it on Facebook or whatever, and you may have glanced at it, but what people didn't get is you need to put these pieces together to understand that, because one of the other pieces of that is that if you are found, in fact, unfit mentally to have a firearm, which, by the way, there's no criteria in that law that says what is going to constitute that.
Yeah.
So I have a good friend who had cancer. She had a double mastectomy, and a medication that she has to take for that now is classified in the antidepressant category. So are they going to take that away from her?
Maybe.
Smoking cessation. There's all of these different things. There was literally no criteria that was written about what they're going to look for. There was no criteria for who they, right? It's they, the medical authority. Well, who is that? Or the cops.
Yeah.
Not how far back they're going to look, and they can look every year. That was in there. They can keep renewing that. But one of the interesting things is, so for example, say in my case, I have PTSD from 13 years ago on my record. I'm fine now, but for me personally, in the unlikely event that they were to pull it, but they could based on how it's written, I could transfer those firearms to my husband. Well, my husband is active duty military and deploys. Somebody breaks into my home while my husband is gone and I have to use that weapon. That law now can put him under investigation for a felony for allowing me to have access to that gun. And that is the problem. Like, they've literally set women up. I mean, people in general, but particularly we as women, I find, are a little, particularly domestic violence victims, are a little more affected by that, and it's kind of a problem. So,
I mean, when you talk about a slippery slope,
right?
And the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Right.
This is it incarnate. All of these things going on, and I do understand that people have to have an avenue. If they, you got to be able to see something, say something. They have to have an avenue for that.
Yeah.
We can do much better than what is happening right now.
Absolutely. And particularly when these laws set us up for, as a domestic violence victim, I was willing to testify against him. He was charged with a felony. They dropped it to a misdemeanor because he didn't use an actual physical weapon on me. He was a foot taller, 100 pounds heavier, literally held me against the wall by my neck. And the criteria that they arrested him for as a felony wasn't the same criteria that they felt was necessary to hold him. But because they dropped it to a misdemeanor, he was able to, and I was willing to testify, and she just blew me off. The prosecutor did. They were able to give him this diversion treatment, negotiation kind of a thing. So basically he was able to go to counseling and stay, out of trouble for 3 years or whatever, and they would, on his record. So he used that to stalk me. So he was mad because then he was free. And so he took a part-time job delivering pizzas was because he was smart. I mean, he was a narcissist, So he used that as the excuse because that was in the district that he would drive in. So he would stalk me at night.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gave him an excuse to be in your neighborhood. I'm delivering a pizza.
Exactly. So what's happened now is we're in a situation, and I don't think this is just independent of Washington State, based on the emails that I'm getting coming from all over the country, is we are living in a culture now where we are arbitrarily making decisions to take guns away from people, particularly domestic violence victims. But the system that is supposed to be there in place to protect these victims is failing them.
Yeah.
So instead of focusing on regulating a woman's right to choose how she defends herself, they need to be focusing on fixing their broken system that mitigates the problems that we're having with these domestic violence offenders to begin.
Well, beautifully said.
Thank you.
And the other part of that for me is that, so if the person is the squirrely one, right?
Yeah.
The person's the problem.
Yeah.
Just removing the one tool.
Right.
The one class of tools, firearms.
Yep.
How does that prevent this squirrely person from going squirrely with any other number of things, or going and getting a gun maybe they didn't know this person had? Right?
Yeah.
Or their neighbor, or breaking in Arizona, we had a rash of break-ins in police cars and stealing AR-15s from police cars. I mean,
I'm kind of impressed. Like, if you're that brave,
right? That's true, but it's like, don't come after those of us who are already regulated up to here. We have a firearms store, and tell us that we're the problem and we need to be more regulated.
Yeah.
So anyway, I digress. But So the We the Female, what is your mission statement? And I feel like I have a sense of why you created it, but what is your mission?
Well, the mission with We the Female is, so just a brief history, I don't want to get too far into it. Right after Parkland, people were, particularly women, I own a day spa. So I sit with these women one-on-one all the time like this, and they were freaking out, moms, a lot of this, and I can't tell you how many times I had to explain what AR really meant.
Right.
It doesn't mean assault rifle, and that, it shoots the same caliber rifle that your grandpa's hunting gun, what I mean? But what I found is that these women would stop and they would listen because they trusted me and they were my friend, and they may not have necessarily agreed, and they still wanted to see action.
Sure.
And I said, if I held a class, or brought you to my house, and I pulled out this,
you got a thing or two.
If I showed you,
you have a buffet,
well, ish. And I said, and I showed you what this was, and even let you hold it. Would it help? And some of them were very receptive to this. I thought, that's it. So I didn't really know what it looked like.
Yeah.
So after Parkland, so about a year ago, I started trying to form this outreach. I'd always want to do something with domestic violence victims because I am one. But there was this other piece of this that I couldn't let go. So it kind of kept progressing, and it hit me like a lightning bolt. Like, this is what I need to be doing. I did go see Maj, with Black Guns Matter, and I liked kind of the concept that he had, and it kind of fit with what I was doing, but in a different way. So about 3 weeks later, I was driving down the road, and it hit me like a lightning bolt. This is what it needs to be. So the philosophy, the mission statement is about teaching women how to pursue, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness through constitutionally based education. So the basic idea is, there's tons of people out there that can teach a woman how to use a gun. Mm-hmm. There is nothing out there that teaches them how to not have to use it to begin with. So our philosophy is really unique in that we teach women how to avoid the situation through personal security and advanced situational awareness training, because your best defense is not having to defend yourself to begin with. So that's the basics, So kind of in the classes, we go through the Constitution and help them understand why these things are in place. And it's not just because they took our guns. I mean, there's layers of this, and we kind of do a brief overview of that. Then we go into different ways that women can defend themselves. Because the other thing we realize in coming together with all these domestic violence victims is there are a lot of them that are not comfortable with a gun, and that's okay too. So we still want them to be safe. So we go over different options for them that are available, different self-defense courses or other non-lethal means of self-defense and things. And then one of the biggest things that we do then after that is we talk about firearms. And if their choice is a firearm, is what are your rights and your responsibilities to use that? Because the firearm should be your last line of defense. And we do have a little bit of a culture, I think, to a certain degree, where we have this, they break in my house, I'm going to shoot them. Let them take your TV. Let them take your money. Let them take your purse. Exactly.
Yeah.
When they're coming after, exactly. The minute they're coming after you or your children, that's a different story. And there's a couple of reasons why you want to do that. And this is what a lot of people don't get. Well, first of all, they're going to investigate you. And you have to make sure that you are going to be able to walk away from an investigation clean because you did everything the way they're supposed to. And the way the climate is, they're going to find a reason to not. Yeah. Bottom line. So we teach them how to kind of the CYA thing. But more importantly, people don't get, you may think that you're tough. Yeah. When you take somebody else's life, that's gonna do something to you. So we want to make sure that we're instilling in these women that the rights and the responsibilities they have if they do choose to be a gun owner. Mm-hmm. And then we've been partnering with different companies. It's in the state, but now nationally we're finding because of social media the resources to be able to send them to, so that they can learn what they need to learn. So
it's everything.
Yeah.
Really,
so now we can send. So for example, in Arizona, we can send them to you, or we do have some instructors on our staff, on our volunteer staff. But but national, we have people messaging, what can we do? And I'm like, this is it. So we need you. Yeah.
I love it. That's fantastic. So I think we did already touch on how gun control laws are negatively impacting domestic violence victims. Did we pretty much cover that whole topic, or?
I think so. I could go on about it for hours,
right,
but I think we covered it. Send me a message if you feel like you wanted more information on that. Yeah.
So this is a question that personally interests me. And we talked about it a little bit before we came on camera.
Yeah.
Because you are really brand new to
very.
the gun side of things.
Very
right?
new, very new.
You've been living what it is to be a survivor of domestic violence for multiple years. But just now really coming into the gun side of things. And the question is, what is the perception of women in the gun community as viewed by a newcomer?
I knew this was going to come up.
What do we look like?
So it's not, I mean, that's a piece of it, is what we look like, but it's also the perception from the non-community of what those gun women look like as well. And I'm finding it's quite interesting, you know, what I came to find. And don't get me wrong, I'm all about a woman doing what she wants to do, and there's no judgment. But I do find that for the most part, with some exceptions, like women like you and I, they've tended broken into two kind of categories. And there's like kind of gun bunny culture, and then there's, especially coming to the show, I didn't even know what a gun bunny was, and a month ago I'm like, what is that? I had to look up a hashtag to see what it was. And then I learned, you know, and then there's like the competitive shooters and these women that are tactical and they do all this stuff. Well, I am none of those things. I am a mother and a wife and a business owner that knows how to use my firearm to protect myself and my family if I need to. And that isn't, from what I'm discovering so far, and like I'm new, there is not a lot of that represented in the gun community. I don't see that a lot. But it's also been what has made people very receptive to what I'm doing.
Right.
So
you don't
and
lead
listening
with
more.
the gun.
I don't lead with the gun at all.
Right.
And not even remotely close to it, because I don't think we should be.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
I do not think our rights should be infringed. I am all about shall not be infringed.
Right.
But I feel like we need to take that responsibility to not give a reason for it to be infringed.
Right. So I know that the gun community has whatever that is. What is the gun community, right?
Right.
But I think we have made huge strides, bringing more women in, making it more open and welcoming. But you had said you can still sense in some times, in some places, there is still a little bit of that. Run along now.
Yeah. Especially because I'm not a tactical. You know, I couldn't walk in. Well, I don't know. I went to range day yesterday. Feeling a little empowered. It was kind of cool. Yes. I shot my first automatic rifle yesterday.
Nice.
Yeah, that whole giggle thing. I was like, yeah, that's true. Yeah. But I'm not. I couldn't sit there and talk scopes with you. I couldn't sit there and talk, you know, fiber optics versus laser. That's not my thing.
Right.
And so I find that I get a little bit of the, aren't you, honey, darling, you know, kind of a thing. And
we really need to weed that out.
Let me show you what you need. Now, what I need is for you to just button it and let me ask you the questions that I need to ask to get to where I need to be, because that's not my priority. My priority right now, what you need to understand is my priority, sir, is helping you keep the right to sell it. That's where I'm at. So instead of trying to talk down to me about not knowing, you know, what caliber that is, you need to appreciate the fact that I'm coming out here to fight for your right to be able to keep whatever caliber you want.
Yeah.
And there's not a big piece of it for, you know, I'm noticing.
That's really smart. That's really important for people to hear, because as great as we think we're doing it at our gun shop, AZ Firearms, there could still be men and women who are not experiencing us at our best.
Right.
And so for us, it's always, what are we doing well? What could we be doing better? And so this is just a great reminder.
Yeah.
I mean, you're trying to help them do better to attract more women and men like you that are just, you want to be in the community. You want to be a part of it. You just don't want to feel demeaned in any way or patted on the head. And
or not feel like they have to be in the community to be accepted.
Yes.
You know, because most women aren't going to be, right? They want, if they choose a firearm, they're coming in to buy one to protect themselves, and they want to be able to go home to their families and not necessarily make it their culture, their community, or you know, their tribe. Yeah. But women are inherently intimidated walking into a gun shop to buy a gun because the men talk down to them constantly. And I mean, I have people send me videos or tag me and stuff where they see this all the time. One of my volunteers, she works for a gun manufacturer. She builds all of her own stuff. And she said for years, they'd walk in and the owner, when she was working in a gun store, and the gun store owner said, she's the one that built it. And and they still didn't want to talk to her.
Right?
Still.
That's crazy.
And yeah,
so pay attention.
Yeah,
pay attention.
Gentlemen,
yes.
we're not talking about all of you, but if this is hitting a button, it's probably you.
I like it.
Just saying.
How the women that maybe are uncomfortable with the tool themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not a trainer,
No.
but yet you have come over that hill, right? And maybe you're still coming over the hill a little bit.
Yeah.
How can women, like if you're speaking to the women themselves, how can they become more comfortable? And if you're speaking again to those of us that are on the other side of the counter trying to train or sell guns or help people find the right tool for their life, how can we help women feel more comfortable with firearms?
Well, not just trying to give them a revolver.
Okay.
That seems to be a thing that I've talked to a lot of people that work in gun stores or women.
Well, here's the pink gun and it's a revolver. You're good. Go.
The pink gun thing. We'll talk about that afterward because this pink gun thing.
There's some really cute
there
and
are.
colorful and fun.
Absolutely.
Accessorizing firearms out there, but we don't have to just. On the other side of the camera, my daughter is nodding. She loves her Tiffany blue.
And you know what? And that's cool. But not all of us want, and so don't automatically
I'm all tactical
assume.
black, so.
See, and I just like it. My first purchase was the 1911 Sapphire from Kemper. So, they sure enough they pulled out the pink one first, and the pink camo rifle, and it's just not my thing. And I think that first of all, if you're going with your wife, let her. That was one of the best things that my husband did for me. Is he walked me in that store and he said, "You point to what you want. Let them pull them out." And then you hold those, and then we'll start narrowing it. And he let me do it because he knew that it was a matter of what was comfortable for me in my hand. And I ended up working with an amazing guy up where we are. I love him. I will only purchase from him because of it. Because some of the other guys still talk down to me, but my guy up there, he's wonderful. And if there's something I don't understand, he will walk me through it without the condescension. But it's stop trying to tell women what they want and listen to what they're asking for. So I think that's a big one, and that goes for husbands and behind the counter.
It does, and we are actually seeing more and more women who are the ones that are gun knowledgeable, bringing in their male counterparts or their sons who are coming of age,
which is cool. I like to see that. Cool. Yeah, I have noticed a little bit of that tide shifting. That's really fun to see it.
And same message to them is don't be too like, hey, I know what's best for you. Right. This gun right here is.
We get enough of that as women. Still, honestly,
we do. We really, really do.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got to start wrapping up.
Sure.
But I really want to make sure that you've conveyed to people what can they do to help with We the Female. How can they help spread the word?
Sure.
Are you set up for any volunteers or donations?
So we just got all of our official bank account and all that kind of stuff going, and it is being self-funded by me right now. So. I was trying to self-fund as long as I can, but things are going so rapidly, I'm probably going to have to be setting that up. So we'll be setting up a GoFundMe actually this week, along with a PayPal account, I guess it is. My friend Mark, that I introduced you to earlier, the Fit and Fire, he is actually helping me set up YouTube. So we're going to be doing some videos. This is intimidating.
You're going to be amazing.
Oh yeah, thanks. I'm not even... Say that after you see him. Anyway, so the biggest thing is that if you do want to reach out right now, we just got the website landing up, so that's not that's how quick all this has moved for me. I had to do this. So we finally have a website up, and that's wethefemale.net because I can't get. So We the Female was a nail polish color by OPI. So somebody bought all of the domain names with it, and so I can have it as a nonprofit, but I have to wait.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're .net, not .com. So you can email through there, or wethefemaleofficial@gmail right now. I'm on Instagram. wethefemale_official. We have a Facebook page, and then my personal page, which is way funnier, but it's stilettos and shotguns. Any of those means you can reach out to me from those at this point. If you want to do donation, that's great. That's wonderful. But we're also looking for people that want to do community organization because our long-term vision is to create chapters where people can go out in the community. Because while we want to educate women, we want to specifically focus on domestic violence victims and single mothers living in high crime areas because they're some of the most marginalized because gun control laws tend to be a little bit stricter in those areas too, and these are the women that need it the most. So those are the places that we want to go to really get to these women. So if you know these areas, you want to help, you want to be a community organizer for this, shoot us a message. We'd love to have you.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Kerry
so much.
Slone,
Thank
this
you.
is amazing.
Thank
to get
you.
to
I'm
meet
so
you in
excited.
person.
This was fun.
Me too. So stick around. We have much more coming up from SHOT Show 2019 in Las Vegas with Gun Freedom Radio. Kerry Slone, We the Female. See ya.